Hey, welcome to another episode of Permission Granted Podcast. I'm Kasha, and I'm here with Shelly and Eva. And Kim is joining us in spirit as always. We miss her.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about money. Dun, dun, dun.
Right, the taboo subject.
Money, because, being an entrepreneur, being, a business owner, especially in the online world, there are so many different messages and it's so easy to polish things that get put out there online that make things sound like it's all rainbows and unicorns, but we never really hear the behind the scenes. And the three of us have definitely been caught up in that, where we're like, well, we want the unicorn, like, where's my rainbow? And it hasn't come, not in the way that we expect. So we are sort of living this behind the scenes deal, and we decided to collaborate, keep ourselves accountable, and go through some of these really hard questions about money mindset. What does it actually mean to have a good relationship with money? Like the whole, what's my money story, all that stuff. And so we thought, we're going to share our journey with you, and we would love to hear your story, and hopefully you can learn right along with us. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Money is such a hard subject, hey? Like, people just don't like to talk about money unless they've got it all or are trying to portray that they have it all, then it's easy for them. But people just, like, it's so hard to really get truthful and honest about money, and sometimes the relationship with money is hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know my relationship with money was very bad, was very toxic, and I didn't really unpack all those feelings until we started more or less working together and helping each other ask like these really difficult questions about like what your relationship with money is. Was it surrounded with times that were joyful? Was it more painful? Does it bring anger? Does it bring divide and conquer between family and friends? And when you really start asking yourself these questions and journaling them out, and not, because we tend to want to like filter how we answer questions. Because here we go, we're perceived that we're being judged, or like we had in our last conversation, we're conditioned to believe a certain way when it comes to money. When you let those filters go and you kind of like let your minds freely flow and write things out and kind of have like that personal conversation with the universe about what really is going on when you ask yourself these questions, you really start to unravel a lot of beliefs that some are conditioned, but others are actually true to how you relate to finances, period, right?
I think too, like what you were saying, I think with the law of attraction, and that's like such a buzzword now, right? And people feel like the whole thing where, I have to be positive about everything. It's like you can't be real about how stressful you have, what stresses you have around finances. And let's face it, when bills come due or surprise things happen, water heaters blow, and there's floods and things that happen, or a car crash, or like anything could happen that causes some sort of unforeseen expense.
Yes.
And if that throws you into a tailspin, like, you need to be able to honestly look at how you feel about those things, really truly.
Yeah.
It's not breaking the law of attraction flow, right?
No, and what's vibrating inside us is vibrating inside us, and that's why we attract what we attract. And if we don't find that vibration that isn't maybe what we want it to be, deal with it, it's not going to go away on its own. What I found is, because I've read several books on money mindset and have participated in challenges and things like that, and I'm not even born in Canada. I was born in communist Poland, very poor country, notoriously at war, in the past. And so the money mindset that I was born into was very much scarcity, lack, right? The whole 9 yards. But I have resisted my own truth and my own, the fact that is inside me. Like, I don't believe any of that stuff, right? Consciously, I don't. But subconsciously, unfortunately, it's in me. And it wasn't until I realized that that I could really dive into some of those questions, like what's your earliest money memory, or what did your parents tell you about money, or, you know, because before I was like, well, no, I don't have any stuff around that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't being honest.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's so easy to just touch on the surface. When somebody asks you that question, it's so easy to just spit out, well, of course I love money. But really, do you really? Because you know, one of my early memories was like, I was playing with coins. I thought I was so special to have been given these coins, and I was rich and I was playing with these coins. And I remember I must have touched my face or put one near my face or my mouth or something, and my mom lost it. Like, that's dirty, and made me wash my hands, and just like up one side of me and down the other for having the audacity to have, you know, exposed myself to this toxicity, right? And that's not something that I remember every day of my life. That's not something that I dragged that up from the dredges. I didn't even realize it was there. But that's deep. Like, how can you possibly want more of something that you feel is toxic and dirty and unhealthy to have?
Exactly. And for me, I grew up in a situation similar to Kasha, where money for us was lack, it was scarcity. And for me, I fell under the umbrella of struggle. I perceived as young as I could remember with struggle and another equal balance of not enough. So I internalized that. I always internalized growing up that I needed to struggle in order to be successful. I wasn't good enough in order for me to be successful. And it's amazing how you take that one belief that relates to your finances, and without you wanting to, because that's a subconscious thing that just automatically happens. No one is sitting there conditioning you to that belief. You just internalize that as a young kid, that you figure, oh my God, okay, this means I need to struggle. This means I'm not good enough to get to where I need to get, because the struggle is real right here and what we're going through and what I'm seeing as a child. And for me to have unpacked that and realize that, okay, that was my story growing up and living that. But that doesn't need to continue to be how the book or how my story ends. Like, we have the right and the permission granted for us. I'm handing out a slip, so I'm sorry. To like rewrite our stories. We don't have to just continue to live that path or that struggle or that story because that's all we know. We should be able to open up to learn new practices of how to do it different and how to do it better, so that it feels more aligned to us versus just what we were handed to us as that emotion when we were children.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you don't even realize that that's necessarily your thought process.
No.
But what happens is that when you get into flow and you're receiving money and you're making it and the bills are being paid and you're fully covered, you are underneath it all creating the struggle you believe must be present.
Yeah.
And then it shows up for you, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Because what you believe is what, you know, how is the thought pattern is that the more you think about something, the more it just comes to surface, you know, and
like in flow, and you're like, well, wait a minute, this isn't, you know, like subconsciously you're like, this can't be happening. It's not possible to have it this easy. It's got to be hard. And then all of a sudden you've got that extra bill you didn't see coming, and the money's going out the door again. Right?
That's exactly what I realized as I was sifting through, not necessarily memories of my childhood, but just the perceptions that I had of how it was. I realized that in the country I grew up in, the people who had money, like what I remember from just snippets of conversations you overhear as a kid, the people who had money were like seen as these special, clever, really smart people. And of course we didn't have money. Like, you know, it was what it was. We had enough, I would say, but nothing super extra. And so I internalized that unless you're special or clever, you struggle. And of course, who doesn't want to be special or clever? And I would say I'm a clever person, or, you know, we're all special, but obviously not in the right way, because I'm still not attracting the abundance that I know I can. But like I said before, it's like until I realized that is actually the truth for me right now, I couldn't find it. I just banged my head against the wall.
Yeah. I was really surprised to uncover that, like, how I emotionally feel about money and how I treat money. Like, if you were to think about money as being a person,
Yep.
The way that you speak about them, like if it was a friend of yours and you were like, oh, thanks for showing up, but like, that's just not enough. I need more.
Yeah.
Right?
Right? Like that friend wouldn't hang out very long.
No.
It'd be like, okay, bye.
Yeah. And I was like, I mean, I'm a good friend, right? Like I don't treat my friends like that. And then, so then when I started thinking about that, I was like, well, wait a minute. How did that happen? I'm not that person. Why am I doing that with this thing?
And for me, what I realized as well is that when it came to money, I always thought it was hard to come by. So that when I did have money, I was hoarding. So I was hoarding my money so that I was trying to make it last. But I didn't realize that I was cutting the flow off of receiving in any way financially, because all I was doing was just keeping it on the sidelines and not doing anything with it and hoping that it would stay like that substantial for a long time, and thinking that if I didn't spend it, it would always be there. But then I didn't realize that I was on the other side of the coin, I was blocking receiving because I wasn't putting back anything energetically into the universe. I just stopped myself. I cut myself off.
You probably weren't like enjoying your life at all either, right?
No,
you're not letting yourself have anything that you want. You're not, you feel guilty for like buying yourself some clothes or something while you're feeding the rest of the family and clothing everybody, and but we can't have anything nice, right?
Exactly.
Like
it's such an interesting energy. I feel like we have money to like, it's like its own spiritual journey, right? Money, because like business is a personal development journey, parenting is a personal development journey, right? But money, it's like this whole other different personal development journey. And when we're all deciding to take, and I love that all three of us are doing it, because we often contact each other in between episodes, like all the time often, and it's nice to share, like, you'll never guess what I just found inside my brain.
I found something interesting. Somebody said, and I can't remember who it was, but somebody said this recently, that there's actually statistics about men who earn lots of money or receive lots of money and what they do with it versus what women who are high income earners and what they do with that money. And women will give back every time.
Really?
Yeah. It's really a high percentage that women give back to their communities, to other women, to, we support each other in entrepreneurship. This is our mission. It's what we do. So why do we feel so bad about earning it?
Right.
Exactly. Right. And again, that's probably another perceived conditioning in society. That women are not supposed to be the highest earners, but that's rewriting itself in history, because if you look at it, like, I'm just going to say one word and one name, Oprah. Okay. Like, if that's not clearly enough for you to believe where her backstory started in poverty and lack to where she is now, and how much of that, exactly like Shelly said, she gives back to the community. I'm like, to me, I find that as a really good example to know that there is enough for everyone. If we kind of just get out of our own ways and get out of our own headspace. I really think when we spend a lot of time with our thoughts, it hurts us more than it helps us.
Probably. 100%. 100%.
Because I think we're so wired to protect ourselves in a sense, so our thoughts like go with it, like, oh yeah, well, and it's just starts, and we start creating stories of things that haven't even happened.
Right? We create problems that don't exist.
Yep.
And then we wonder, oh, why did that show up? Damn it, because you were thinking about it like too much.
Worrying makes you suffer twice.
Yes. I love that.
Yes. Oh.
Stop doing that.
Humans are such funny creatures. We're so brilliant. We're so dumb at the same time.
I agree.
Totally.
Because, like we're quick to be able to support and give great advice for others, and then when we come to ourselves, we stop.
Yeah,
I know.
We think of all the worst things eternally for us than we would for, like, exactly like Shelly said, half the things that we think to ourselves, would we ever say that out loud to somebody?
No.
Would we ever say, oh yeah, no, you're not good enough. Oh no, that business is gonna fail. Oh no, you're not. No, that's a bad idea.
That's an incredible thing to go through. Just off the top of my head here, I saw a post from someone today on Facebook where she was saying, like, I've heard it all. I've heard, and she ran through a list of insults that she's heard from other people about, like, I'm not good enough, you're not pretty enough anymore, you haven't bounced back after the baby, like all these things, right? And then she's like, but the worst things I've heard are from me. And then she listed out all the things that she says to herself internally. And it was just like, oh my God, like what a good exercise to go through, to do that for yourself.
And kind of catch yourself and how often the thoughts you think of yourself when you see yourself in that mirror, how quick that first thought is a critical thought of yourself.
Yeah.
I think it's important too. Like you can't start this journey of exploring yourself and like changing your mindset without developing the awareness of where you're currently at.
Yeah, like we should be very adventurous and curious to obtain all that knowledge that we know we have within us, and to find the answers to those questions and those stories and why we have these belief systems, and to be okay with it because that's our story. Yeah. But again, we have the right to turn this around and make it a different, going forward from here. But that's information, that's knowledge that you need. That's an awareness that you need to know that you can get that positive trigger, that when that thought comes into your head or you're about to say something that's really not in a positive light, to take 2 seconds and think about it. And then how can I reframe that so that it's positive and I receive it better? Or I say something to myself that's better.
And remember, it's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel weird. I've been doing the Louise Hay, I love you in the mirror, and it's getting easier. Like I can actually look at myself in the eyes and say it. And now it's kind of like a fun game. But in the beginning, I was like, wow, this is awkward. Like
that was the word I was going to use, awkward, because I started doing that years ago too. And for me, I was like, this is silly looking at myself, telling myself I love you. But because I was thinking to myself all the critical things.
Exactly. So when you start this journey, and we hope you join us on this journey, and we would love to hear from you, get ready. Like it's going to be a bumpy ride in the beginning, and you're going to feel dumb. And that's okay, because we're feeling dumb with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Totally.
So do we have some permission slips we want to hand out?
Permission granted to just get really real and raw and honest with yourself, because if you can't be honest with yourself, then who are you being honest with, really? Just get real. You're not going, it's not as scary as it feels like it is. You're not going to hurt yourself, and you really can't start to make change until you're honest about where you're at. So permission granted to be honest.
Permission granted, like I said earlier, to know that you have the power to rewrite your story, that what you're living in right now doesn't need to be the end all be all. Like you have the right to change your thoughts and your perceptions and your conditioning, self-conditioning, not public conditioning, and how you want to go forward in your business and in your life, especially in your life, because that carries into your business. So how you treat yourself is how your business is going to be received by you and the many. So know that you have that power to rewrite how you want to go forward. And we're all adaptable. We're all pliable to change if we're willing to be open to the change.
Yeah, definitely.
And permission granted to embrace the possibility of something different. Know that who you have been up to this point is not who you have to stay being, unless you absolutely love every bit of yourself. But I love myself. I know these ladies love themselves, but there are pieces of myself that I could love even more and empower even more. And I believe in that possibility for myself. And so grab a friend, join us on this journey, and have these awkward conversations with yourselves, with your friends, and let's do this.
Yeah.
Nice. Thanks so much for joining us on this juicy episode of Permission Granted Podcast. We invite you to download your Permission Granted manifesto. The link is below. and share this conversation. Like, this is, you know, we're getting real raw here, and we hope this sparks some conversation in your own life and some transformational changes. So stay tuned for more. We're not sure when the next one in this series is happening, because we got to have time in between to work this out, but we will keep you updated on our progress. Have an amazing week, a couple weeks, and we'll see you next time.